This title is presented to you by Soundlibra.com. For more audiobooks like this, click the link in the description or visit our website at Soundlibra.com. Welcome to Stop People Pleasing, your guide to reclaiming life from expectations.
Alex, I'm so glad we're starting this journey.
Me too. Before we dive into the substance, just a quick heads up to our listeners that while we're exploring personal growth and mental well-being, this podcast is for educational purposes and isn't a substitute for professional medical or therapeutic advice. If you're struggling, please do consult with a qualified professional.
That's an important note. So let's get into it. Today, we're talking about the golden handcuffs of yes.
Exactly, Lisa. These handcuffs look appealing, maybe even feel right at first, but they bind us, preventing us from living authentically. We say yes, believing it will earn us approval and avoid conflict.
So it's a way to get a temporary reward, like a smile or a bit of peace, but it comes at a cost to our own needs and selves.
Precisely. Over time, these small acts of prioritizing others at our own expense entangle us. We become bound by the need for external validation.
How does this manifest in our daily lives? Can you share some examples?
Sure, think about agreeing to extra work when you're already swamped, or attending social events you'd rather skip to avoid disappointing a friend.
Or even always letting your partner choose the restaurant or your kids pick the movie, even when you have a strong preference.
Yes, it's also not voicing your opinion in a group for fear of upsetting someone or constantly doing favors without reciprocation. These acts, when habitual, drain our energy and sense of self.
And this constant giving leads to burnout and feeling unfulfilled. We end up running on empty.
That's a perfect way to put it. We can feel resentful, exhausted, and disconnected from ourselves, pushing our own goals aside to support others. We're living through others' expectations, not our own happiness. This is the core of the golden handcuffs. External validation keeps us bound.
So, the first step is recognizing if we're wearing these handcuffs. How can our listeners identify people-pleasing behaviors?
Pay attention to your internal dialogue. When you say yes, ask yourself, why am I saying yes? Is it what I genuinely want? Or is it out of obligation or fear? Notice how you feel after saying yes. Empowered or drained and resentful.
That focus on the feeling after saying yes is so important. It reveals the true motivation.
Exactly. Over-apologizing or struggling to accept compliments are also signs you might be caught in this cycle, seeking external validation over internal worth.
It truly feels like an addiction to approval, doesn't it? We crave that hit, even when it's harmful.
It is, and we'll explore that further. For now, the goal is awareness. Ask yourself, do you often say yes when you mean no? Do you worry excessively about others' opinions? Do you struggle to express your own needs?
If any of those resonate, it's okay. These tendencies develop as coping mechanisms. Our journey ahead is about understanding these patterns and learning to gently loosen those golden handcuffs.
Precisely. This series will help you unearth the roots of this behavior, manage guilt, and equip you to say no, set boundaries, and build self-worth. We'll learn to embrace disappointment and live autonomously.
To recap this episode, people pleasing is a trap of seeking external validation. The golden handcuffs of yes, feel good but restrict us and lead to burnout. Our homework is to become aware of our own people-pleasing behaviors by examining our motivations and feelings when we say yes.
That's a perfect summary, Lisa. This week, observe yourselves. Notice when you're bending over backward. Does it truly serve you? This awareness is the crucial first step in reclaiming your life. Thanks for listening. Next episode, Unearthing the Roots of Approval Addiction. Welcome back. Last time, we discussed the golden handcuffs of yes.
Yes, where we feel trapped by agreeing to everything, leading to burnout and a sense of losing ourselves.
Today, in episode 2, Unearthing the Roots of Approval Addiction, we explore the underlying causes of people pleasing, why we crave external validation so much.
That's crucial, Alex. If we don't understand the why, changing the behavior is much harder. Where do these roots typically lie?
Often, they trace back to childhood. As children, seeking approval from caregivers is natural. If we were consistently praised for being agreeable and quiet, we learn that this earns us love and belonging.
So, pleasing caregivers became the way to get our needs met, including affection?
Precisely. Approval becomes associated with safety and love. If we were criticized or faced withdrawal of affection for expressing our own needs, we might learn to suppress them. This can lead to an approval addiction.
An approval addiction, what does that mean practically?
It means we feel compelled to seek approval, like an addiction requiring a fix. Our self-worth becomes tied to others' opinions, not our internal compass.
Our self-esteem is held hostage by others' views.
Exactly. Fear of rejection is another major driver. As social creatures, being ostracized is a powerful fear pushing us to conform.
To avoid being excluded, we might agree to things that feel wrong.
Yes, and the need for belonging is closely tied. We all want to fit in. If we believe being agreeable is the price of acceptance, we'll pay it.
We worry that if we show our true selves or disagree, we'll be rejected and alone.
That's clear. This conditioning happens beyond family, in schools and friendships. When compliance is rewarded, that pattern solidifies. We learn being good means being a yes person.
So, to recap, roots of approval addiction stem from childhood conditioning where pleasing earned love and safety. This creates a fear of rejection and a need to belong, making us rely on external validation for self-worth.
A great summary. It's vital to recognize these patterns. Reflect on your history. What messages did you get about being agreeable? When did you prioritize others' needs over your own?
Confronting these origins might be difficult, bringing up guilt or sadness.
It can be, but understanding the roots is the first step. It demystifies the approval addiction as a learned behavior, a coping mechanism.
By understanding the source, we can lessen its grip and decouple our self-worth from external validation.
Exactly. Future episodes will offer practical tools. We'll cover managing guilt, saying no, and building internal self-worth.
So, the approval we seek from others can actually be cultivated within ourselves.
That's the goal. This episode encourages turning inward, exploring past influences, and understanding that this is a common, but changeable, response.
It's a journey of self-discovery. Understanding the why is empowering.
Absolutely. It prepares us for the strategies ahead, aiming not for selfishness, but for authentic contribution from a place of self-respect.
So, we've covered how childhood, fear of rejection, and the need for belonging lead to approval addiction and reliance on external validation.
The key takeaway is self-reflection. Gently explore your past for patterns that fostered people-pleasing. Knowing the origin is a powerful step to reclaiming your autonomy.
It's like knowing the blueprint before renovating.
A perfect analogy. Thanks for joining this exploration into approval addiction. It's crucial for stopping people-pleasing and living on your own terms. Next episode, we'll explore the guilt game, understanding and managing. Welcome back. Last time we discussed the roots of approval addiction. Now let's tackle guilt.
Guilt. Just saying the word can make your stomach clench. Can't it, Alex? It's that heavy feeling, that internal voice telling you you've done something wrong, or worse, that you're something wrong.
Exactly, Lisa. And for people pleasers, guilt can be like a constant companion. It's often the emotional roadblock that prevents us from setting boundaries or prioritizing our own needs. We might think, if I say no, they'll be disappointed and then I'll feel guilty. Or even, if I take time for myself, I'm being selfish and that's something to feel guilty about.
It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. We anticipate the guilt, and that anticipation itself leads us to avoid the action that would trigger it.
Precisely. So let's break down this guilt game. First, it's crucial to understand that not all guilt is bad. There's a difference between healthy guilt and unhealthy guilt. Healthy guilt is a natural signal, like a helpful nudge. It arises when we've genuinely violated our own values or harmed someone else.
So, if I borrowed someone's car and accidentally scratched it, feeling guilty would be appropriate. It prompts me to apologize and offer to fix it.
That's a perfect example. Healthy guilt motivates us to make amends, to learn, and to grow. It's a sign that our moral compass is working. Now, unhealthy guilt, on the other hand, is often disproportionate, persistent, and it doesn't lead to constructive action. It's the guilt you feel for simply having needs, for wanting personal time, or for saying no to something that would have overextended you.
This sounds like the guilt many people pleasers experience. It's less about a specific wrong action and more about an ongoing, internalized belief that our needs are secondary or that we're somehow obligated to always please others.
You've hit the nail on the head. This unhealthy guilt is often rooted in childhood experiences, past relational patterns, or even societal messages that equate self-sacrifice with goodness. It becomes a powerful tool for, and more importantly, a powerful tool we turn against ourselves. We internalize the external pressure to conform and feel guilty when we deviate.
So, how do we start to manage this unhealthy guilt? It feels so pervasive. It's like trying to catch smoke.
That's a great analogy. The first step is awareness. We need to learn to recognize when we're feeling guilt. What does it feel like in your body? Is it a tightness in your chest? A knot in your stomach? A racing mind? Identifying the physical and emotional sensations is key.
Okay, so I notice the physical sensation. What then?
Then we ask ourselves, is this guilt healthy or is it unhealthy? This is where the reframing really begins. Ask yourself, did I actually harm someone? Did I violate my core values? If the answer is no, but you're still feeling a strong surge of guilt, it's likely the unhealthy kind.
And that's the moment we can try to reframe it. Instead of seeing it as, I've done something wrong, we can start to see it as, this is a signal that I'm stepping outside my comfort zone, or that I'm being asked to do something that doesn't serve me.
Exactly. Think of it like this. Imagine your guilt is a smoke detector. Healthy guilt is a smoke detector that goes off when there's actual smoke, a real problem, or harm. Unhealthy guilt is a smoke detector that's overly sensitive, beeping wildly at the slightest whiff of steam from a kettle. Our job isn't to silence the detector entirely. It's to adjust its sensitivity so it only alerts us to genuine danger.
That's a brilliant way to put it. So, the next time that feeling arises, I can ask myself, is this a real fire, or just a bit of steam?
Precisely. And once you've identified it as potentially unhealthy guilt, the next step is challenging the underlying beliefs. What's the story you're telling yourself that's creating this guilt? Is it if I don't do this, they won't like me? Or I'm selfish if I prioritize my own needs? Write these stories down.
Writing it down makes it more concrete, doesn't it? It moves it from a vague, overwhelming feeling into something you can examine.
Absolutely. And then you counter those stories with more balanced and realistic thoughts. For the belief, if I don't do this, they won't like me, you might counter with, my worth isn't dependent on their approval. True friends will respect my boundaries. Or for, I'm selfish if I prioritize my own needs. You could counter with, taking care of myself is essential for me to be present and helpful to others. It's not selfish, it's necessary.
This feels like training a muscle. It's not going to change overnight.
It's definitely a practice, and it involves more than just thinking. Sometimes we need to experiment with slightly uncomfortable situations. What if you say no to a small, low-stakes request? See what happens. You might feel guilt, but then you can remind yourself of this conversation. Is this healthy guilt or unhealthy guilt? What's the realistic outcome? You'll likely find that the sky doesn't fall.
And even if there's a bit of disappointment from the other person, that's often a manageable emotion, unlike the intense guilt we anticipate. We talked about this briefly last time, but the fear of disappointing others is so closely linked to guilt.
It is. And acknowledging that disappointment is a normal part of life, both yours and theirs, is crucial. It doesn't mean you failed. It simply means you're a human being with your own needs and boundaries. So, to recap this section, healthy guilt signals a real wrong, prompting repair. Unhealthy guilt is often disproportionate, stemming from internalized beliefs that our needs are invalid. To manage it, we first become aware of the sensation. Then we assess if it's healthy or unhealthy guilt, challenge the underlying negative beliefs, and gently experiment with setting boundaries.
And the key takeaway is that feeling guilt doesn't automatically mean you've done something wrong. It's a feeling, and like all feelings, it's information, not necessarily a verdict.
Exactly. And as you become more adept at recognizing and managing unhealthy guilt, you'll start to feel a sense of empowerment. It's like you're taking back the remote control from the guilt game and deciding when and why to play.
That's a powerful image. So, we've unpeeled the layers of guilt. What's next on our journey to stop people pleasing?
Now that we understand the emotional triggers, we're going to shift gears and talk about the power of the word no. In our next episode, we'll be crafting your first no, giving you practical strategies and language to use. Next episode, the power of no, crafting your first no. Welcome back. Last time we covered guilt. Now let's tackle saying no.
Ah, the dreaded no. For so many of us, it feels almost taboo, doesn't it, Alex? Like we're letting someone down, or worse, being selfish. It's that simple, one-syllable word that can cause so much internal turmoil.
Exactly, Lisa. And that's precisely why this episode is so crucial. Today, we're not just talking about saying no, we're talking about how to craft your first no and then how to make it a more natural part of your communication. We'll be giving you concrete, actionable advice with different ways to phrase it so you can start building that confidence.
So, if I'm listening right now and my heart is already starting to race at the thought of saying no, what's the very first thing we need to understand?
The first thing to understand is that saying no isn't inherently selfish or mean. It's actually an act of self-respect and a way to preserve your energy and your integrity. Think of it like this. Your resources, your time, your energy, your emotional bandwidth are finite. When you say yes to something that doesn't align with your priorities or your capacity, you're automatically saying no to something else that might be more important for you.
That's a great way to put it. You can't be all things to all people, and trying to do so depletes you. So, it's not about rejecting the person, it's about managing your own commitments.
Precisely. And often, people pleasers fall into the trap of over-apologizing or over-explaining when they say no. This can actually make the situation more awkward and can undermine the clarity of your no. A simple, clear no is often the most effective and respectful approach.
But for someone who's always said yes, how do you even begin to craft that simple no without feeling a tidal wave of guilt or needing to justify yourself to the moon and back?
Let's break it down. The most fundamental way to say no is simply and directly. For example, if someone asks you to take on an extra task at work that you realistically don't have the capacity for, a straightforward no, I can't take that on right now, is powerful. Notice it's immediate and states your current limitation.
No, I can't take that on right now. It's so simple, and yet the urge to add because I'm swamped or I'm so sorry is so strong.
It is, but try to resist. If you do feel the need to offer a brief, polite reason, keep it very short and focused on your capacity, not their request. Something like, I'm unable to assist with that at this time, or my schedule is full at the moment.
So, focusing on your own situation. What if the request is more personal, like a friend asking for a favor you can't do?
For personal requests, again, directness is key. You got a touch of warmth. For instance, thank you for thinking of me, but I won't be able to do that. Or, I appreciate you asking, but that doesn't work for me. The phrase, doesn't work for me, is fantastic because it's entirely about your situation and doesn't blame or critique the other person's request.
Doesn't work for me. I like that. It's less confrontational than a flat no, but still conveys the same message. What about situations where you could do it, but you really, really don't want to?
This is where we start to empower ourselves. It's about recognizing that your desire to say no is valid. You might say, I realize I'm not available for that, or I need to decline that offer. The key is to deliver it calmly and confidently. Imagine saying it out loud, even to yourself, a few times. Practicing in advance can make a world of difference in the moment.
Practicing. That's brilliant. It's like rehearsing a speech. So we've got direct no, a brief reason, and the doesn't work for me approach. Are there other ways to defer or decline gracefully?
Yes, absolutely. Sometimes you might want to offer an alternative, but only if you genuinely want to and it doesn't obligate you further. For example, if someone asks you to attend an event you can't make, you might say, I can't make it to that event, but I'd love to catch up another time. This shows you value the relationship without agreeing to the original request.
That's a way of still staying connected. So, not an outright rejection of the person.
Exactly. Another option is setting a condition from the outset. If you know a particular type of request is usually a drain, you can preemptively set the boundary. For example, I'm happy to help out on projects, but I can only commit to a certain number of hours per week. This gives you control before the ask even comes. This is more about proactive boundary setting, but it's a powerful tool.
It's like building a fence around your resources before someone starts asking to use them. It's not about being unhelpful, it's about being realistic.
It truly is. Now, let's talk about the follow-up to saying no. The guilt can creep in, right? If you said no and then feel that familiar pang of regret, what do? Remember our discussion on guilt. Remind yourself why you said no in the first place. Was it to protect your mental health? To focus on a personal goal? To simply have some downtime? Reconnecting with that why is your anchor.
So, you revisit the reason for your no to combat the guilt. What if the other person pushes back? That's a common fear for people pleasers.
That's a very real concern. If someone pushes back, you don't need to escalate or get defensive. You can simply and calmly reiterate your no. For instance, if they ask, are you sure you can't? You can reply, yes, I'm sure. As I said, I can take that on. Or my decision stands. The key is to be firm but polite. You don't owe them an endless justification.
So, the core message for today is that a clear, concise no is a powerful tool for self respect and managing our lives. We've learned that it's not about rejecting the person, but about respecting your own limits.
Absolutely. We've covered simple, direct no phrases like, I can't take that on right now, or I'm unable to assist with that. We've explored graceful declines like, that doesn't work for me, and the power of offering an alternative only if it's genuine. And crucially, we've touched upon how to handle the inevitable guilt and potential pushback by reiterating your boundary firmly, but politely.
It sounds like taking that first step, even with a simple no, can be incredibly liberating.
It is. And the more you practice, the easier it gets. It's a skill. And like any skill, it improves with repetition. Start small. Practice saying no to a minor request. See how it feels. Build from there. Remember, your yes is more valuable when you also have the freedom to say no.
An excellent point to end on. So, for our listeners, the challenge this week is to try and articulate at least one genuine no in a situation where you might usually say yes out of habit or obligation.
Precisely. And next time, we'll be building on this foundation as we dive into the vital concept of boundaries, the invisible shields that protect our newfound ability to say no.
Fantastic. Thank you, Alex. And thank you to our listeners for joining us.
Thank you. Next episode, Boundaries, the Invisible Shield. Welcome back. Last time we covered the power of no. Now, let's explore boundaries.
Invisible shields, I like that. So, Alex, what exactly are personal boundaries?
At their core, personal boundaries are the rules and limits we set in our relationships. They define what is acceptable behavior towards us and what is not. It's about understanding your own needs, values, and limits, and then communicating them clearly.
So, it's not just about saying no to requests, but also about defining how people can treat you?
Exactly. Boundaries communicate your expectations for how you want to be treated. They aren't about controlling others. They're about controlling your own reactions and protecting your inner peace. Imagine your garden. Boundaries are the fence that keeps out unwanted pests and ensures your plants get the right sun and water.
That garden analogy is perfect. How do we begin to identify where we need these shields?
It's a process of self-awareness. Tune into your feelings. When do you feel drained, resentful, or taken advantage of? These feelings signal that a boundary is being crossed or needs to be established. Think about recurring situations that leave you feeling uncomfortable or depleted.
So, if I consistently feel exhausted after a friend vents for hours, that's a sign I might need a boundary around my listening time?
Precisely. You might need a boundary around the duration or frequency of those conversations. Consider your core values, too. When your boundaries align with your values, you feel more authentic.
Okay, so we've identified a need for a boundary. The next step is setting it. This can feel scary because we worry about upsetting people.
It absolutely can. But setting healthy boundaries is a sign of self-respect and respect for others. When you set a boundary, you're being clear, not mean. Communicate your boundaries calmly, clearly, and kindly. State your need directly.
Can you give us an example? If my friend is always late for our meetups and it makes me feel disrespected.
Instead of saying, "You're always late and it's so annoying," you could say, "Hey, I value our time together. When we meet at, say, 2 o'clock, I'd really appreciate it if we could both aim to be ready to start right at that time. If you think you might be running late, could you give me a heads up?"
Oh, that's so much better. It focuses on your need and proposes a solution without blame. It emphasizes the positive outcome you're seeking.
You're explaining the impact of their behavior on you and proposing a collaborative solution. It's about being assertive, not aggressive. Assertiveness means standing up for your rights and needs without infringing on the rights and needs of others.
And what if, even after communicating the boundary, the behavior continues?
That's a very important point. When a boundary is repeatedly crossed, you need to reinforce it, and sometimes that involves consequences. This doesn't mean punishment, but protecting yourself. For example, if your friend continues to be late without notice, you might decide you can only wait for 10 minutes. And if they're not there by then, you'll have to start without them or reschedule.
So, the consequence is about protecting your own time, not punishing the other person.
Precisely. It's about enforcing your boundary so you're not consistently feeling disregarded. It's a form of self-protection. Remember, we're building these invisible shields not to push people away, but to create healthier, more sustainable relationships where everyone feels respected. Boundaries are foundational to self-respect and emotional well-being.
So, to recap, Boundaries are our personal rules for acceptable behavior, helping us protect our energy and well-being. We identify them by noticing where we feel drained or resentful. Setting them involves calm, clear communication, focusing on our needs and potential solutions. And if boundaries are crossed, we reinforce them with natural consequences that protect us. It's all about creating respect, both for ourselves and for others.
That's a fantastic summary, Lisa. Establishing and maintaining boundaries is a continuous practice, but it's one of the most powerful tools for reclaiming your life from the expectations of others and living more authentically.
It really is. Protecting your inner garden with those invisible shields is so important.
Next episode, we'll tackle one of the toughest scenarios, setting boundaries with those difficult people in our lives. Welcome back. Last time, we explored the essential art of setting boundaries, understanding them as our invisible shields. Now, we're diving into a really common and, frankly, tough situation, setting boundaries with difficult people.
This is where it gets real, Alex. We can talk about setting boundaries with friends or family who are generally supportive, but what happens when the person you're trying to set a boundary with is someone who consistently pushes back, manipulates, or outright disrespects them? That's a whole different ballgame.
Exactly. Difficult people, and we all know someone like this, often operate under a different set of rules, or think they do. They might be passive aggressive, overly critical, demanding, or they might use guilt trips. Our usual methods for setting boundaries might just bounce right off.
So, what's the first step when you know you need to set a boundary, but the person is, well, difficult?
The first step is preparation, and it's even more crucial here. You need to be crystal clear on what your boundary is and why it's important to you. Difficult people often try to make you question your own needs and feelings. So, imagine you're facing a boss who constantly gives you urgent weekend work, even though your contract specifies your hours. Your boundary is that you won't be available for non-emergency weekend work. Why? Because you need that time to recharge, to maintain your well-being, and frankly, because that's what was agreed in your contract.
So, it's about solidifying your own resolve before you even talk to them. And when you do talk to them, how should you approach it? With a difficult person, politeness can sometimes be seen as weakness, can it?
It can be interpreted that way. The key is to be firm and direct, but not aggressive. Think of it as being assertive. Assertiveness is about respecting yourself and the other person, even if they aren't respecting you. Aggression is about trying to dominate. So, instead of saying, "You always dump work on me on Fridays," which sounds accusatory, try something like, "I need to make sure I have my weekends to rest and prepare for the week ahead. Therefore, I won't be able to take on non-emergency tasks after 5 p.m. on Fridays."
That's a great example. You're stating your need and your action clearly. But what if they come back with a pushback? I can imagine someone saying, but this is urgent, or I've always been able to rely on you for this.
The common pushback tactics. When they say urgent, you can respond by clarifying what qualifies as urgent. I understand you feel this is urgent. Can you help me understand what makes it an emergency that requires immediate attention outside of my working hours? If they try to guilt you with, "I've always been able to rely on you," you can acknowledge the past but pivot to the present. "I appreciate that in the past I've been able to help out. My needs have shifted, and I need to prioritize my work-life balance starting now."
It sounds like you need to be prepared for their attempts to derail you and have calm, factual responses ready. It's like a mental preparation exercise.
Precisely. And remember the why behind your boundary. Reminding yourself of your own needs and values will help you stay grounded when they try to shake you. Another tactic difficult people use is emotional manipulation, making you feel guilty. For instance, a parent might say, "After all I've done for you, you can't even do this one thing for me?"
Oh, the guilt trip. That's a classic. How do you handle that without crumbling?
You validate their feelings, but you don't accept the guilt. So you might say, I understand that you feel disappointed and I value our relationship. However, my decision about X is about my own well-being, and it's not a reflection of how much I care about you. It separates their feelings from your action. You're not saying their feelings are wrong, but you're also not letting them dictate your behavior through guilt.
So, it's about acknowledging their emotional response, but holding firm to your own reasoning. It's like building in a little emotional buffer for yourself.
Exactly. And sometimes difficult people will escalate. They might become loud, dismissive, or even threatening. In those situations, your priority shifts to your safety and well-being. It's okay to disengage. You can say, I'm not willing to discuss this when you're speaking to me this way. We can revisit this conversation when we can both speak respectfully and then walk away or end the call.
That's a powerful point, Alex. It's not about winning an argument. It's about protecting yourself. And what if disengaging isn't really an option, like with a colleague or a family member you see regularly?
In those cases, you might need to enforce consequences. Boundaries without consequences are just suggestions. If you've set a boundary and it's been repeatedly violated, you need to follow through. For example, if your roommate continues to ignore your quiet hours rule, a consequence might be that you start using earplugs every night, or you limit your shared social time. The consequence should be something you can realistically implement and that addresses the boundary violation.
So, the consequence isn't a punishment, but a way to reinforce the boundary and protect yourself from the ongoing disrespect.
Precisely. And it's important to be consistent. Inconsistent enforcement is what gives difficult people openings to push back. They learn that if they try hard enough, or if they apologize profusely, they can get away with it. Consistency is your superpower here.
This is so helpful. It's overwhelming to think about, but breaking it down into preparation, assertive communication, handling pushback, and consistent consequences makes it feel more manageable. It's about reclaiming your agency, even when faced with challenging personalities.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that you have a right to your boundaries, regardless of how another person chooses to react to them. And remember, this is a skill that gets stronger with practice. Every time you set a boundary, even a small one, you're reinforcing your own self-respect.
So, to recap, when dealing with difficult people, we need to first prepare diligently by clarifying our boundary and its importance. Second, communicate assertively and directly, focusing on your needs and actions. Third, anticipate and calmly address pushback tactics like guilt or accusations. Fourth, be prepared to disengage or enforce consequences when boundaries are repeatedly crossed. And finally, consistency is key to reinforcing those boundaries.
That's a fantastic summary. Lisa, this is a stepping stone to truly living on your own terms. We've spent a lot of time building up to this, talking about saying no, understanding guilt, and the very essence of boundaries. Now, we have a framework for applying it in its most challenging form.
Indeed. It's about protecting your peace and your authenticity in every interaction.
Next episode, breaking the approval addiction cycle. Welcome back. Last time, we delved into setting boundaries, even with difficult people. Today, we're circling back to a core issue, the approval addiction.
Ah, yes. That insatiable need for everyone to like you, to praise you, to give you that little hit of validation. It's something so many of us struggle with, Alex. We're conditioned to seek it out.
Exactly, Lisa. It's a cycle that can be incredibly draining. This episode is all about breaking that cycle. We'll focus on dismantling the constant craving for external validation, recognizing when we're falling back into that pattern, and how to shift our focus inward to build genuine self acceptance.
So, if episode 2 was about identifying the addiction, this one is about the treatment plan?
That's a perfect way to put it. Think of the approval addiction like any other addiction. It offers a temporary high, that feeling of being liked, of being good enough, but it ultimately leaves you feeling empty and dependent. You're constantly chasing the next fix, and you never truly feel satisfied.
And that chase can override our own desires, our own needs, even our own truths, can it? We end up doing things just to get that nod of approval.
Absolutely. So, let's start with recognition. How do you know when you're in the grip of approval addiction? One big sign is when you find yourself saying yes to things you really don't want to do, not because you're being helpful, but because you're afraid of what the other person will think if you say no.
That fear of what will they think is huge. It's like a little voice in your head constantly assessing how others perceive you.
It is. Another sign is constantly seeking compliments or reassurance. You do something, and then you're looking for someone to tell you did a good job. Or you make a mistake, and you're consumed with worry about how others view your failure. This constant need for external validation is a key indicator.
It's like your self-worth is tied to a report card that someone else is holding and grading.
Precisely. And the emptiness that follows? This is where the addiction aspect really hits home. When you get that compliment, it feels good for a moment, doesn't it? But then it's gone, and you need another one. That brief feeling of satisfaction never leads to lasting contentment. It's like drinking salt water when you're thirsty. It only makes it worse in the long run.
That's a great analogy. So, once we recognize these patterns, how do we start to break free? What are the practical steps?
The first fundamental step is to consciously acknowledge that this need for approval is actually hurting you. It's limiting your authentic self and preventing you from living a life aligned with your own values. Once you accept that, you can begin the work of shifting your focus from external validation to internal validation.
Internal validation. That sounds wonderful, but also a bit abstract. What does that actually look like in practice?
It means learning to approve of yourself. It means recognizing your own worth, your own efforts, your own intentions, independent of what anyone else thinks. So, when you do something well, instead of immediately looking for praise, you take a moment to acknowledge it yourself. You might say to yourself, I tackled that project diligently, and I'm proud of the effort I put in.
So, it's about self-acknowledgement and self-appreciation. That feels radical for people used to seeking external praise.
It can be, especially at first, and it's a muscle that needs to be strengthened. One way to do this is to start with small, intentional acts of self-encouragement. After you complete a task, big or small, take a moment to reflect and give yourself credit. Don't brush it off. Don't minimize your accomplishment. Simply recognize that you did that.
And what about when we make mistakes? Because that's often when the approval addiction really flares up, isn't it? The fear of judgment is at its peak.
That's a crucial point, Lisa. Embracing disappointment, both our own and others, is part of this process. Instead of berating yourself or panicking about how others will react when you err, try to reframe it. See mistakes as learning opportunities. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? Rather than what will people think of me now?
So, instead of seeking forgiveness from others, we're seeking wisdom for ourselves.
Exactly. And this leads us directly to the next major strategy, cultivating self-compassion. Be as kind and understanding to yourself as you would be to a dear friend who's made a mistake. We tend to be our own harshest critics, especially when we're driven by the need for approval.
That's so true. We'd never speak to a friend the way we sometimes speak to ourselves.
We wouldn't. So, practice that same gentle voice. Acknowledge your humanity. Recognize that everyone makes mistakes, and it doesn't diminish your worth. This self-compassion builds that inner resilience, that internal validation. You start to understand that your worth isn't conditional on constant external praise.
It sounds like a profound shift in perspective, moving from "am I good enough for them" to "I am good enough."
That's the heart of it. And remember, this isn't an overnight transformation. It's a journey. There will be times when you slip back into old habits. The key is to notice it without judgment and gently redirect yourself. Don't beat yourself up for seeking approval. Just acknowledge it and reaffirm your commitment to internal validation.
So, to recap for our listeners, breaking the approval addiction involves recognizing the pattern, the excessive yes, yes, the constant need for compliments, the fear of judgment. Then, we consciously shift our focus from external validation to internal validation by practicing self-acknowledgement, self-appreciation, and most importantly, self-compassion. We reframe mistakes as learning opportunities and treat ourselves with the same kindness we'd offer a friend.
You've hit all the key points, Lisa. This shift is fundamental to building unshakable self-worth, which we'll dive into more deeply in our next episode. But for now, start practicing these steps. Notice when you're seeking approval and gently, kindly bring your focus back to your own inner voice and your own inherent worth.
It's like slowly turning down the volume on the outside noise and turning up the volume on your own inner wisdom.
Beautifully put. And that inner wisdom is where true freedom and authenticity lie.
Indeed. Next episode, we'll be diving into building that unshakable self-worth from within. Thanks for listening.
Welcome back. Last time, we delved into breaking the cycle of approval addiction and the importance of saying no. Now, let's tackle embracing disappointment, both your own and that of others.
That sounds like a big topic, Alex. Disappointment can feel so heavy, can it? I think a lot of people pleasers actively avoid it.
Absolutely. Disappointment is an inevitable human experience. It's a natural consequence of having desires, hopes, and expectations, and of living a life that's true to ourselves, which often means not aligning 100% with what others expect. Think of it this way. When you start making choices based on your own needs and values, rather than what will please everyone else, there's a high chance someone might feel disappointed.
So, it's almost a sign that you're doing something right in terms of becoming more authentic?
Exactly. It doesn't mean you go out of your way to disappoint people. But when it happens as a result of you honoring your own truth, it's not something to be feared. It's something to be understood and managed. Let's start with our own disappointment. When we don't get something we want, or when things don't turn out as planned, it stings. What's your first instinct when you feel disappointed, Lisa?
Honestly, I usually want to just push it away, pretend it doesn't matter, or blame myself for having the expectation in the first place. It feels easier than sitting with that negative feeling.
That's a very common reaction. But suppressing disappointment is like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. It takes a lot of effort, and eventually it'll pop up somewhere else, often magnified. A healthier approach is to acknowledge it. You can say to yourself, I'm feeling disappointed right now, and that's okay.
Just acknowledging it? That feels so simple but also a little vulnerable.
It is, but vulnerability is where growth happens. Think about when you feel disappointed. What are the underlying feelings? Often, it's sadness, maybe frustration, or a sense of loss. Allow yourself to feel those emotions without judgment. What would happen if you just sat with that disappointment for a few minutes, explored what it's telling you? It might be that your expectation was unrealistic or that you need to adjust your plan. Or it might simply be that you need to grieve the loss of what you hoped for.
So, instead of immediately trying to fix it or ignore it, I should kind of sit with it and ask it what it needs?
Precisely. You can even ask yourself, what does this disappointment teach me about my desires or needs? This shifts the focus from a purely negative experience to an opportunity for insight. For instance, if you're disappointed that a friend couldn't make it to an event you were looking forward to, you might realize how much you value their presence. That's valuable information for future planning or for communicating your needs.
Okay, that makes sense. Acknowledge, explore, and learn. What about when we disappoint others? That's often the scarier part for people who are used to pleasing.
This is where many people pleasers get stuck. They're terrified of causing discomfort or disapproval in others. But remembering our earlier point, living authentically often means someone will be disappointed, is key. When you have to say no to a request because it overburdens you, or when you choose a path that doesn't align with someone else's vision for you, they might feel disappointed.
And the temptation is to immediately apologize profusely, backtrack, or even cave just to make their disappointment go away.
Exactly. But when you do that, you're reinforcing the idea that their feelings are more important than your own boundaries and well-being. When someone expresses disappointment towards you, the first step is still acknowledgement. You can say something like, I hear that you're disappointed, and I understand why. This validates their feelings without necessarily agreeing that you did something wrong.
So, even if I've made a perfectly reasonable decision that's right for me, I can still acknowledge their disappointment. It's not about taking blame, but about showing empathy.
That's the distinction. You're not responsible for managing other people's emotions. You're responsible for your own actions and for communicating them clearly and kindly. If your decision was made with good intentions and aligns with your authentic self, you don't need to over-apologize or feel guilty. A simple, I'm sorry that this didn't work out for you, can be enough.
It's like drawing a boundary around your own emotional space. You're not rejecting their feelings, but you're also not letting them dictate your choices out of fear of causing those feelings.
Precisely. And here's a powerful reframing. Disappointment can also be a catalyst for growth in others. When someone experiences disappointment because of your choices, it might push them to find their own solutions, to adapt, or even to reevaluate their own expectations. It's their opportunity to develop resilience, just as it is yours. Remember the saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Disappointment can be a gentle, or sometimes not so gentle, push in that direction for everyone involved.
So, we shouldn't shield others or ourselves from disappointment. We should learn to navigate it with grace and understanding.
Yes, embracing disappointment means accepting it as a natural, even necessary, part of a full and authentic life. It's about understanding that your choices have consequences, and sometimes those consequences involve feelings of sadness or unmet expectations, both for you and for others. But by facing it, acknowledging it, and learning from it, we build resilience and become more integrated human beings. We stop living in fear of those difficult feelings and start living more fully.
So, to recap, for our own disappointment, we acknowledge it, explore the underlying feelings, and use it as a source of learning. And when we disappoint others, we acknowledge their feelings with empathy, communicate kindly but firmly, and accept that their disappointment is their experience to navigate, not ours to absorb.
Exactly. It's about understanding that the pursuit of pleasing everyone is a guaranteed path to disappointing yourself. Embracing disappointment, yours and theirs, is a vital step in reclaiming your life and living it on your own terms. Next episode, authentic self-expression, finding your voice. Welcome back. Last time, we explored embracing disappointment. Now, let's tackle authentic self-expression.
That's right, Alex. It's about finding and using your unique voice to share who you truly are. For so long, many of us have muted our true selves, prioritizing what others expect.
Absolutely. Imagine you're a singer who's only ever sung in a whisper, afraid of hitting a sour note. Authentic self-expression is about finally letting your full voice ring out.
So, where do we begin finding and using our voice if we've spent years suppressing it?
The first step is internal exploration. You can't express what you don't know. Get curious about yourself. What do you genuinely enjoy? What are your core values? What sparks your passion? We weren't taught to uncover these when people pleasing.
That makes sense. We've been so focused on fitting in, we might not have asked ourselves these questions. What are practical ways to start this internal exploration?
Journaling is fantastic. Dedicate 10 minutes a day to writing your thoughts without censorship. Ask yourself how you really feel, what you truly want. The goal is to bypass your internal editor.
So, create a private space for unfiltered thoughts.
Precisely. Mindfulness or meditation also helps. By quieting external noise and focusing inward, you hear your own inner voice. Think of it as tuning into your personal radio station. Once you begin to identify your authentic thoughts and feelings, the next hurdles are judgment and fear. People worry about what others will think, fearing rejection or criticism.
That's a huge barrier if you've built a life around avoiding those reactions. It's like a voice saying, don't say that, they won't like it.
Exactly. To combat this, reframe your understanding of judgment. Remember our discussion about embracing disappointment? Their reactions are about them, not necessarily a reflection of your worth. Start by sharing in low-stakes environments with trusted friends.
So, practice with supportive people. That eases the pressure.
Yes, and remember, expressing yourself doesn't always have to be grand. It could be as simple as stating your preference for a movie or politely disagreeing with a comment. Small acts build confidence.
It's about accumulating small victories in being true to yourself. And this ties back to boundaries, right?
Absolutely. Authentic self-expression is the natural outflow of strong boundaries. It becomes easier to communicate your needs and desires clearly. Boundaries are the framework, and authentic expression is what you fill it with.
So, if I've set a boundary that I won't work late on Fridays, authentic expression could be saying, I can't stay late tonight because I have a personal commitment. It's stating what's true for you.
Perfectly put. Now let's talk about passions. Sharing hobbies or interests is a powerful form of self-expression. It allows others to connect with the unique, vibrant human being that you are.
And it's not just about sharing what you're passionate about, but how you talk about it. Can we communicate that passion authentically without overwhelming others?
It's about sharing your enthusiasm genuinely. Let your natural excitement shine through. If someone isn't interested, you can politely acknowledge that and move on. Your enjoyment is valid on its own.
That's a great point. The value is in your own connection to it, not necessarily in mass appeal. What if you feel like you're still not sure what your authentic self is?
This is common after years of people-pleasing. Experimentation becomes key. Try new things. Pay attention to what resonates. What activities make you lose track of time? What conversations leave you feeling energized? These are clues to your authentic self.
It's like being a detective for your own soul.
Exactly. And remember that your authentic self isn't static. It evolves. Embrace that evolution. Your voice will change and deepen over time.
So, the journey of authentic self-expression is ongoing. It's about continuous discovery and courageous sharing.
Precisely. It's about moving from seeking external approval to internal validation. When you express yourself authentically, you give others permission to do the same.
I love that. It's not just personal freedom, but fostering a more honest environment. So, to recap, start with self-exploration through journaling and mindfulness. Gently begin to express your authentic thoughts in low-stakes situations. Embrace your passions and share them, and don't be afraid to experiment and evolve.
That's a perfect summary. Finding and using your voice is one of the most powerful acts of self-reclamation. Next episode, building unshakable self-worth from within. Welcome back to Stop People Pleasing. Last time, we explored finding your authentic voice. Today, we're building unshakable self-worth from within.
That's such a vital step, Alex. If our worth is tied to external validation, it's always going to be a struggle, isn't it?
Exactly, Lisa. Our goal is to cultivate a sense of self-worth that is independent and deeply rooted inside us. Your value isn't something you earn. It's something you inherently possess.
So, how do we start building this internal foundation?
The first step is shifting our perspective away from comparison. Instead, focus on your own journey, growth, and unique qualities. Remember episode 9, where we talked about finding your voice. That voice is inherently valuable.
So, it's about turning inward and appreciating what's already there, rather than chasing something outside ourselves.
It is, and that's why we need to practice. One powerful way is through self-appreciation exercises. Take a moment each day to acknowledge something you did well, something you handled with grace, or a positive quality you exhibited.
So, like a self worth journal, specifically for personal qualities and actions?
Precisely. You could write down things like, today I was patient, or I handled that challenging email professionally, or I took time for myself. Over time, these small acknowledgments build an internal narrative of competence and value. It's about retraining your brain to notice the good within you.
I can see how that would make a difference. It's like a constant reminder of our own capabilities.
Exactly. Another crucial element is separating your worth from your mistakes or failures. Mistakes are not reflections of your worth. They're simply opportunities for learning and growth.
That's a tough one, though. When you've made a mistake, it feels like a personal failure.
Let's reframe it. Instead of, I'm a failure because I messed this up, try thinking, this didn't go as planned. What can I learn from this experience to do better next time? This mindset shift is liberating. It allows you to take responsibility without self-condemnation. Think of a scientist experimenting. They analyze data and adjust. They don't deem themselves a bad scientist.
That's a fantastic analogy, Alex. Viewing mistakes as data points for improvement rather than personal indictments takes the sting out.
It really does. And beyond acknowledging successes and reframing failures, we need to cultivate self-compassion. This means treating yourself with the same kindness, understanding, and support that you would offer a dear friend who is struggling.
Self compassion, that's something I know I struggle with. It's easier to be kind to others than to myself.
Many people find it easier. Self-compassion isn't about letting yourself off the hook. It's about recognizing your shared humanity. Everyone makes mistakes. Everyone experiences pain. When you embrace that, you realize you don't have to face them with harsh self-criticism. You can face them with kindness.
So, to recap what we've discussed so far for building unshakable self worth, we need to shift focus from external validation to internal qualities, practice self appreciation by acknowledging our positive actions and qualities daily, reframe mistakes as learning opportunities, and cultivate self compassion by treating ourselves with kindness.
Beautifully summarized, Lisa. And to take this even further, let's talk about recognizing and challenging negative self-talk. Our internal dialogue has a massive impact on how we perceive ourselves. If you constantly tell yourself you're not good enough, eventually, you'll start to believe it.
Oh, I know that voice. It's relentless sometimes.
It can be. So, become an observer of your own thoughts. When you notice a negative thought, ask yourself, is this thought true? Is it helpful? Would I say this to someone I care about? Often, these negative thoughts are not based on reality, but on old beliefs or insecurities.
And then what do we do with that untrue, unhelpful thought?
You consciously choose to replace it. For example, if the thought is, I'm so clumsy, I always mess things up, you can challenge it and replace it with something like, I'm still learning, and sometimes I make mistakes, but I also have many moments of skill. It's about creating a more balanced and compassionate perspective and nurturing a healthier inner voice.
It sounds like a continuous, conscious effort. It's not a one time fix.
Absolutely not. Building unshakable self-worth is a journey, but the rewards are immense. When you have a strong sense of your own inherent value, you're less likely to be swayed by external opinions, less prone to people pleasing, and more empowered to live life on your own terms. You become the ultimate authority on your own worth.
And that internal authority is what allows us to truly be autonomous, to live authentically, and to navigate challenges with confidence. It makes all the previous steps more sustainable.
Precisely. Because when your worth is unshakable, you don't need external validation to feel complete. You're already complete. This is the ultimate freedom. It's about finally recognizing that you are enough, just as you are.
So, to wrap up this vital topic of building unshakable self-worth, we've discussed shifting focus inward, daily self-appreciation, reframing mistakes, practicing self-compassion, and challenging negative self-talk. These are all powerful tools for cultivating a deep, internal sense of value that isn't dependent on anyone or anything else.
And this resilient self-worth paves the way for everything that comes next. It's the bedrock upon which we build a life of authenticity and confidence. Next episode, navigating conflict with confidence. Welcome back to Stop People Pleasing, Reclaim Life from Expectations. Today, we're tackling something that can really test that newfound strength, navigating conflict with confidence.
Oh, conflict. Just the word can make some people's palms sweat, right? It's often a huge trigger for people pleasing. We tend to instantly want to smooth things over, avoid rocking the boat, and just agree to make the discomfort go away.
Exactly. That urge to avoid conflict is deeply rooted in the fear of rejection, the fear of upsetting others, and the old, familiar habits we've built around seeking approval. But healthy relationships and a healthy life actually involve navigating disagreements. It's not about avoiding conflict, but about handling it constructively.
So, instead of seeing conflict as a giant red flashing danger sign that means we have to people please to survive, we should reframe it?
Precisely. Think of conflict not as a sign of relationship failure, but as an opportunity to understand different perspectives, to clarify your own needs, and to strengthen your relationships by showing you can be both authentic and respectful. It's a sign of self-respect and respect for the other person when you can engage in conflict resolution.
That's a powerful reframing. But what does that look like in practice? How do you actually do that? When someone is upset, or when you have a different opinion, how do you voice it without it turning into a full-blown argument or, worse, you just shutting down and agreeing?
Great question. It starts with preparation, even if that preparation is just a mental check-in before you engage. First, identify your goal. What do you hope to achieve by discussing this? Is it to find a compromise, to express your feelings, or to set a boundary? Having a clear goal helps you stay focused.
So, know what you want before you dive in. Makes sense. What else?
Next, focus on the issue, not the person. Instead of saying, "You always do this," try, "I feel concerned when this happens." Using I statements is crucial. It talks about your experience and your feelings, which are undeniable, rather than making accusations that put the other person on the defensive.
I feel concerned when this happens versus you always do this. That's a huge difference in tone and impact. It's much harder to argue with someone's feelings than with an accusation.
Absolutely. Your feelings and needs are valid. You're not being difficult for having them. So, practicing those I statements builds on that foundation of internal validation. Another key is active listening.
Active listening. That means not just waiting for your turn to speak, right?
Exactly, Lisa. It means truly trying to understand the other person's perspective. Nod, make eye contact, and summarize what you're hearing. You can say things like, "So, if I understand correctly, you're feeling X because of Y. Is that right?" This shows you're engaged and trying to grasp their viewpoint, even if you don't agree with it.
Showing your listening can really de escalate things. It makes the other person feel heard, which is often half the battle.
It truly is. Now, what if the conflict is with someone who tends to be difficult, perhaps someone who tries to manipulate or guilt trip you? This is where boundaries become your best friend. Remember boundaries? They are your invisible shields.
Ah, yes. Those were so important. So, if someone is trying to guilt trip you into something during a conflict, how would you use a boundary then?
You would state your boundary clearly and calmly. For example, if someone is saying, "If you don't do this for me, I don't know what I'll do. I'll be so disappointed." You might respond, "I understand you're feeling disappointed, and I can't take on that responsibility for your emotions. My decision is X." The key is to deliver it without apology or excessive explanation.
I can't take on that responsibility for your emotions. That's a really clear statement. It redirects the responsibility back to where it belongs. This is helping me visualize it. It's not about being harsh, it's about being clear and honest about what you can and cannot do.
You've got it. And sometimes conflict resolution isn't about reaching a perfect agreement. Sometimes it's about agreeing to disagree respectfully. It's about finding common ground where possible and acknowledging differences where they exist. This is where embracing disappointment comes in. You might have to accept that the other person won't fully understand or agree with you, and that's okay.
And that's a huge shift from people pleasing, where you feel like a failure if everyone isn't happy. It's accepting that your peace and your authenticity are just as important as pleasing someone else.
Exactly. It's about self-respect. When you navigate conflict with confidence, you're showing yourself and others that your needs, your voice, and your boundaries matter. You're not looking for external validation. You're standing firm in your internal worth. This creates more resilient relationships built on honesty, not on avoidance.
So, to recap, when conflict arises, we're encouraged to first, identify our goal. Second, use I statements to focus on the issue and our feelings. Third, practice active listening to understand the other person. Fourth, use clear boundaries, especially with difficult individuals. And finally, remember that not every conflict needs a perfect resolution. Sometimes, agreeing to disagree respectfully is the mature and healthy path.
That's a perfect summary, Lisa. By practicing these skills, you transform conflict from a people-pleasing trigger into a space for genuine connection and personal growth. You're learning to stand in your truth, even when it's uncomfortable, and that's a massive step towards living on your own terms. Next episode, The Autonomous Life, Living on Your Terms. Welcome back. Today we're talking about the autonomous life, living on your own terms.
Living on your own terms. That sounds like exactly what we've been building towards this whole series, Alex. It's the culmination of everything we've discussed.
It really is, Lisa. We've dug into the roots of approval addiction, learned how to say no, build boundaries, and even explored how to embrace disappointment. All of those steps have been leading us to this point, the ability to live an autonomous life.
So, when we talk about an autonomous life, what does that really look like in practice?
At its heart, autonomy means being self-governing. It means you're the one at the helm of your own life, making decisions based on your own values, not on what you think others want or expect from you. It's about freedom from those golden handcuffs of yes that we talked about in the very first episode.
Right? The yes that feels good in the moment because it gets approval but can leave you feeling drained and resentful later. So, autonomy is the antidote to that.
Exactly. And it's not just about avoiding people-pleasing. It's about actively choosing your path. Think about it like this. Imagine you've been rowing a boat that everyone else is steering. You're rowing hard, but you're going wherever they decide. An autonomous life is where you take the tiller yourself. You decide the direction, you set the pace, and you enjoy the journey because you're in control.
That's a great image, Alex. taking the tiller. But for so many listeners, after years of letting others steer, how do they even begin to grab that tiller? It might feel scary, right?
It absolutely can feel scary. It's uncharted territory for many. But remember the tools we've built. Setting authentic boundaries, as we discussed previously, is crucial. Those boundaries aren't just walls to keep people out. They're the lines that define your space and your choices. When you say, "This is my boundary," you're essentially saying, "This is where my autonomy begins."
So, boundaries are like the visible markers of your personal freedom.
Precisely. And then there's the courage to express your authentic self, which we touched on earlier. When you can speak your mind, share your true feelings, and pursue your genuine interests, you are exercising your autonomy. It's about allowing yourself to be seen and heard for who you truly are without needing a stamp of approval.
That's tied so closely to the idea of building unshakable self-worth from within. If your self-worth isn't dependent on others' opinions, then you're free to make autonomous choices.
You've hit on a key point, Lisa. Unshakable self-worth is the foundation. When you know your own value, the fear of disappointing someone else diminishes significantly. You can embrace disappointment, yours and theirs, as we discussed before, without derailing your entire sense of self.
So, to recap the foundations we've laid for autonomy: strong boundaries, authentic self-expression, and internal self-worth.
Absolutely. And when you combine these elements, you start to experience a profound sense of freedom. This isn't the superficial freedom of having no responsibilities. It's the deeper, more meaningful freedom of aligning your actions with your deepest values and desires. It's the freedom to choose your own adventure.
What does that freedom feel like? Beyond just not saying yes when you want to say no.
It feels like peace. It feels like a lighter load. When you're living autonomously, you're not carrying the weight of other people's expectations or the guilt of not living up to them. You're not constantly second-guessing yourself or trying to anticipate every possible negative reaction. Instead, you're focused on your own growth, your own happiness, and your own contribution, guided by your inner compass.
It sounds like a much more energetic way to live, too. Instead of expending energy managing others' perceptions, you're channeling that energy into what matters to you.
Exactly. And this is where navigating conflict with confidence becomes so important. When you're living autonomously, conflicts are inevitable. People will still have expectations, and sometimes those will clash with your needs or choices. But with the confidence we built, you can address these conflicts directly and respectfully without resorting to people-pleasing tactics. You can stand your ground, express your perspective, and work towards a resolution that honors your autonomy.
So, it's not about avoiding conflict, but about handling it from a place of strength and self-respect.
Precisely. It's about being able to say, "I understand your perspective, but this is what works for me." It's about owning your decisions and their consequences without blaming others or seeking external validation. This is living on your terms.
And what are the long-term benefits of living this autonomous life?
The long-term benefits are immense. You build more authentic relationships because people connect with the real you, not the version you feel you need to be. You experience greater fulfillment because your life is driven by your own purpose, not by external pressures. You develop resilience because you learn to trust your own judgment and navigate challenges independently. And perhaps most importantly, you experience a profound sense of self-respect and self-acceptance.
It sounds like shedding a heavy disguise and finally breathing freely.
That's a beautiful way to put it, Lisa. It's about reclaiming your life from the expectations of others and living a life that is genuinely your own. It's about the satisfaction of knowing you are steering your own ship through calm seas and rough weather towards your own horizon. This is the essence of the autonomous life.
So, to recap this pivotal episode, an autonomous life means taking the tiller yourself, making choices based on your values, not external expectations. It's built on strong boundaries, authentic self-expression, and unshakable self-worth. It leads to a profound sense of freedom, authentic relationships, greater fulfillment, resilience, and self-respect. It's about living your own adventure.
And as we approach the end of our series, remember that the autonomous life isn't a destination you reach and then stop. It's a continuous practice, a lifelong journey of staying true to yourself.
And that's a perfect segue into our next and final episode, where we'll discuss sustaining your authenticity and really putting it all together.
Join us next episode to explore how to sustain your reclaimed life. Thanks for listening. Welcome back. Last time we explored living on your own terms.
That was powerful, Alex. How do we make sure this new way of living sticks, especially when old habits are so ingrained?
That's what today's episode is about. Sustaining your authenticity, a lifelong journey. Shedding people-pleasing is an ongoing practice.
A lifelong journey. What's the first key to making this last?
Recognize that setbacks are not failures. Think of learning a new skill. You might fall, but you learn.
So, slipping back isn't a sign of failure?
Exactly. It's a signal to pause and ask, what triggered this? Understanding the trigger prevents relapse.
An early warning system. And then,
Self-compassion. Treat yourself kindly. Acknowledge this is hard work. And remind yourself how far you've come.
self-compassion. So, identify the trigger, offer grace. Then what?
Actively reinforce your new behavior. Have a gentle way to reassert your boundary. For example, follow up with, after thinking about it, I don't think I can commit to that.
Owning the correction without shame. It shows others you're learning to honor your needs, potentially fostering more respect.
Precisely. Continuous learning and growth are also crucial. Our needs and boundaries evolve. Regularly check in with yourself.
Like boundaries evolving from a shield to something more dynamic?
Yes, journaling can help. Are you feeling drained, resentful, overwhelmed? These signs suggest your approach needs a tweak.
How do we find the courage to make those tweaks when it might upset others?
Lean into your unshakable self-worth. Your worth isn't tied to people-pleasing. It's inherent. Authentic expression strengthens this inner worth, becoming your anchor against disapproval.
So, the more authentic we are, the stronger our self-worth gets, empowering more authenticity.
You've got it. Also, cultivate your support system. Surround yourself with people who appreciate your authentic self. Talk to trusted friends or a therapist.
We need positive reinforcements. Thinking back, saying no felt impossible. Now, it feels like self-preservation.
That transformation is sustaining your authenticity. It's weaving these practices into your daily life, showing up as your true self consistently.
So, to recap, sustaining authenticity is a lifelong journey involving viewing setbacks as learning, practicing self-compassion, and having a plan for reasserting your needs. It requires ongoing self-assessment, leaning into self-worth, and nurturing a supportive community.
Absolutely. It's about being patient, celebrating small victories, and understanding this is a continuous process of growth. You have the tools and resilience to keep moving forward, living a life that truly reflects you.
This has been profoundly practical and inspiring, Alex. It's about embracing the ongoing evolution of living authentically.
Thanks for listening. Welcome back to Stop People Pleasing. This is our final episode, episode 14. We're putting it all together.
It's been quite a ride, Alex. We started by talking about those golden handcuffs of always saying yes, and now we're talking about reclaiming our lives. It feels like we've covered so much ground.
We really have, Lisa. We began by unearthing the deep roots of approval addiction. We explored why we feel this constant urge to please others, often stemming from early experiences or a fear of rejection.
And then we dove into the guilt game. That was a tough one for a lot of listeners, I imagine. Understanding how guilt can be used to manipulate us, and how we can start managing it instead of being controlled by it.
Precisely. And crucially, we learn how to craft our first no. It's not about being difficult, it's about respecting ourselves. We learn that saying no to something that doesn't serve us is saying yes to ourselves.
That concept of saying yes to ourselves really resonated. Then we moved on to boundaries. We introduced the idea of boundaries as an invisible shield, protecting our energy and our well being.
And we tackled the challenge of setting boundaries with difficult people. That's where things can get really tested. But we learned strategies to hold firm without escalating conflict unnecessarily.
Then we circled back to breaking the approval addiction cycle. It's a cycle, isn't it? You get a taste of freedom, then that old habit tries to pull you back in.
It is, and that's why consistent practice is so important. We also talked about embracing disappointment. Both hours when we can't meet everyone's expectations, and there's when we finally set a boundary. Learning that their disappointment isn't our responsibility is liberating.
And that liberation is key to authentic self-expression. Finding our own voice, no longer filtered through the lens of what we think others want to hear.
Exactly. And from that authentic expression, we build something truly powerful, unshakable self-worth. This is the bedrock. When your worth doesn't depend on external validation, you become incredibly resilient.
And with that inner strength, navigating conflict becomes less daunting. We learn the tools to do just that, to handle disagreements with confidence, knowing our own value.
Then we talked about the autonomous life. This is where it all starts to feel real. Living on your own terms, making choices that align with your true self, not just societal or familial expectations.
And we were reminded that this isn't a one and done fix. It's a lifelong journey of practice, self awareness, and gentle redirection when we slip back.
And now, here we are in our final episode, your reclaimed life, putting it all together. Think of this entire series as us building a magnificent, authentic home for yourself. We started with the foundations, understanding your why for people pleasing and the guilt that ties you down.
Then we laid the walls, learning to say no, establishing those crucial boundaries, and understanding how to protect yourself, especially from those who might push back.
We then focused on the interior design, finding your authentic voice, building that rock-solid self-worth from within, and learning to express yourself honestly, even in conflict. The interior is where the true you lives.
And the roof? That's the autonomous life, the freedom to live as you choose, unburdened by the constant need for approval. It's about taking shelter in your own convictions and living from a place of inner strength.
This final episode isn't about introducing new techniques. It's about celebrating the incredible progress you've made. You've learned to recognize the yes trap, to manage guilt, to set boundaries, to speak your truth, and to build a life based on your own values, not on the whims of others.
It's about embracing the fact that their disappointment is not your failure. It's a sign you're living authentically. Remember, your value is inherent, not earned through constant servitude.
So what does this reclaimed life look like? It looks like making choices that energize you, not drain you. It looks like spending time with people who uplift you and gracefully distancing yourself from those who don't. It looks like pursuing your passions without apology.
It means you can say no with clarity and peace, knowing it's the right decision for you. And when you say yes, it's a genuine, enthusiastic yes, not a reluctant surrender.
This journey requires ongoing practice. There will be moments when old habits resurface, when the fear of disapproval whispers in your ear. But now you have the tools, the awareness, and the growing inner strength to navigate those moments.
You are no longer a passenger in your own life, driven by the expectations of others. You are the captain, charting your own course. It's a constant process of checking in with yourself. Does this align with who I am? Does this bring me closer to my authentic life?
And as you continue this journey, remember the core principles. Self-worth is internal. Boundaries are essential for well-being. Authentic expression is your birthright. And an autonomous life is the most rewarding life.
You've built this. You've reclaimed this life. It's a testament to your courage and commitment to living more fully, more truthfully.
We are incredibly proud of you for embarking on this path and for sticking with it through every episode. This is the beginning of your truly reclaimed life.
Thank you for joining us on this series of Stop People Pleasing, Reclaim Your Life from Expectations.
Thanks for listening to the series.